Hello everyone, Shinto Bean here with some more Warhammer combat cards, and in this video we'll be looking at the different orc warlords and sample decks that you can use with each one. So to get started, we'll look at Boss Zagstruck. He's actually one of the most powerful orc warlords. He had a much weaker special rule back when the game first came out, but then they changed it to the current one, which is actually very strong. Whenever one of your orcs would ready, it instead makes an attack for 100% of its melee damage. So scouts, things with the scout trait combo very well with him, giving them a chance to attack, get a free attack in when they deploy. Zagstruck himself has a scout. The thing is, if you upgrade the trait, it doesn't actually really have an effect on the damage it deals because they're not readying, so that's why I haven't upgraded to the next trait level, although I do have enough copies of him to get his next damage upgrade, so that would be worth doing if I can ever get enough coins. We've got 3 other bodyguards with scout in here, so we've got the Storm Boys. These guys, of course, are very good for their cost with Zagstruck. And then the Deathkiller Wartrike. This thing has a powerful ranged attack as well. Solid card. We've got a very big Death Dread. This is the Berserker. One of my favorite cards. The thing can get a whole lot of damage after it's been on the field for a little bit. And then some support cards. We've got the Pain Boy with Medicae. This guy can heal up your higher health cards, preferably the Death Dread and the Wartrike. And then Hack a Buzzkill. This guy has taunt and quite a bit of health for his cost, so solid card. He also has a powerful melee attack. And then finally, Ed Zappa, the Weird Boy, is actually really good with Zagstruck because most of the time you're going to be using Psychic to get free attacks in. So you can deploy him, you can use his Psychic attack, and the Psionic Blast is also quite strong. And then your other melee cards will just use their melee attack. So very strong warlord, quite easy to use, and I think most of the time in like orc campaigns I've gotten the highest level with Zagstruck. Next we'll look at the infamous Captain Badruck. So this is the ranged specialist for the orcs, and he has a very powerful special rule as well. Whenever one of your orcs destroys an enemy with a ranged attack, it gets another attack for 60% of its ranged damage output. So it's quite easy. Again, you just have to destroy enemies with their ranged attacks. The stats on Badruck, he doesn't actually have very much ranged damage himself, but has a decent amount of health once you upgrade him, at least to level 5. And of course, the cards you want to use here are the ones that deal the most range damage. So in the orc roster, the Dakajet is a no-brainer here. It also has a precision shot, and I've had games where I've just wiped the entire board with this card alone. So definitely probably one of the best bodyguards to combo with Badruck. The Blastajet is also another powerful option, another aircraft. This thing has Big Game Hunter, so you can use it to blast those big expensive cards to pieces and get extra attacks in with those. But orcs do have a lot of other cheaper options that still have plenty of damage output. So cards with Barrage are also nice. If you can destroy an enemy, you can get more attacks in, and they'll deal splash damage each time, so that also ends up being a whole lot of extra damage. Got the mech gun there. Another precision shot, the Killacan. It has low initiative, but it does have a lot of damage output. It's got very good stats for its cost. It's been buffed quite a few times over the years. And then for a little bit of defense, we've got Gubbins, and he's got Fear, so just if you need to reduce some of that incoming damage. Overall, this deck does not actually have a whole lot of health overall, and very few defensive traits. If you want, you could include those, but we're just going for an all-out attack here, basically, so massive amounts of damage output. Next up, let's look at Bossnikrot, sneaky warlord who deals more damage when your cards are attacking from a different lane. So the cards that combo best with this guy are Target Acquired, and also anything that deals area of effect damage. But we've got all 3 cards with Target Acquired in here. the Commando and Commando Knob. Both of these have a higher melee attack, so they don't actually combo as well with a lot of the ranged units in this deck, but still you can target an enemy and all of your other cards will be dealing double damage, so you should have no trouble taking it down. The Flash Gates Captain here is the ranged one with target acquired, so he is quite nice. Obviously you don't want to deploy multiple cards with target acquired on the same turn if possible, so just put one down and then put the other damage dealers down as well. So we've got some barrage in here. The Squig Buggy is of course very strong. It's got high initiative and plenty of damage, lots of health, so powerful card there. Again, the Mech Gun is quite good for its cost, lots of damage output. And the Killer Can, you can use Precision Shot, just make sure that if you deploy the card with target acquired first, and then a card with Precision Shot, then the Precision Shot will target the thing that is being targeted, because the traits activate in the order that the cards were deployed. So you can potentially deal a lot of extra damage with this guy. Almost forgot about the Luda, another powerful barrage unit for its cost. And once again we got Ed Zappa, whose Psionic Blast will be dealing double damage to the lanes that he is not in. So he's also a solid option. Snikrot only has melee himself, but since most of the battle you'll be going ranged or psychic, you can end with a strong melee attack with this build. Next up we'll look at Mazraog Scragbad, one of the newer orc war bosses who is very strong when you're going with the big melee bodyguards. So whenever one of your orcs makes a melee attack, it gains 10% of its base health. So you can keep those big guys alive longer. He is a berserker himself. He has pretty low damage output, and berserk is not the greatest trait on warlords because by the end of the battle usually you're facing the strongest enemy bodyguards. So berserk is not going to help out that much at that point. But still, he has tons of health, so he will be gaining a lot of extra health from his own special rule. And then we're including two of the big berserkers. We got the Squigoth. This thing also doesn't really seem to have the most damage output at first, but it has tons of health. And by at this level, it gains plus 12 or plus 9, I guess, plus 9 stats every time it takes damage. So it can get a massive ranged and melee attack after a few turns. Also got the big melee Death Dread here, also the other another powerful berserker. And then we've got some support. We got extra healing just to keep those big berserkers alive even longer, so the Pain Boy and Mad Doc Grotsnik. And finally we've got Makari in here with the last few points. He's got Inspiring Presence, so in terms of order, you of course want to deploy your two big berserkers down and then heal them twice, and then towards the end of the battle you can drop down Makari to get an even bigger boost to your damage output. So Mazraog is doing quite well on the ladder, it seems, in ranked mode, so very fun warlord to use, I think. You are kind of limited in terms of options, so a lot of players might not have these cards at an optimal level, but if you do, he's quite strong. And finally, let's take a look at the legendary Gazgulaka. Now, he's probably one of the weaker orc warlords, but he is pretty fun once he's on the field. Whenever you kill an enemy, he gains plus 10 to his melee attack, so you won't actually see any effect from his special rule until Gaz himself deploys. He doesn't help his bodyguards in any way, so that's a pretty major weakness. So really, you have to include powerful bodyguards to do all the work, basically, before he deploys himself. We're focusing mainly on the ranged attacks so that we can build up a melee attack towards the end. Got the Daka Jet there. The Snazwagon is also quite strong with shields. This thing can block tons of damage, and it's got good damage output as well. We've got the Shock Attack Gun. and the Luda, and also the War Boss. This is a melee warrior with Inspiring Presence. So in the past, when I used this sort of build, I just dropped all the ranged units, dealt as much damage as I could, and then once Gazgul deploys, hopefully you can deploy the War Boss also to increase his damage even more. And by that point, Gaz should have plenty of damage, maybe 150, 160 hopefully. And then with the Furious Charge, you can also deal tons of damage as well. So, I mean, it's pretty fun when you can pull it off, but again, because the special rule only affects him, it really kind of pales in comparison to a lot of the other orc warlords. So that's it for the orcs. They've got plenty of strong cards, and they're relatively easy to use, I think. Let me know which of the orc warlords is your favorite, and if you use any builds that are different from the ones that I listed here. Let me know in the comments. But that's it for this one. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.